But what I want to do right now is take the time to go through my 5 biggest takeaways of camp. So I want to get to that quickly, and then later on in the show, we'll double back. We'll get to coach speak. But after these 5 big takeaways, or the 5 biggest training camp storylines, we'll come back to the super chats, and then we'll finish up the program with the coach speak. So let's go to the 5 biggest takeaways from camp. And so for me, we start at number 5. Which targets will emerge for Dwayne Haskins? And we're not specifically talking wide receivers here either, folks. It's not just wide receivers. Tight ends also have to be considered in that discussion. Like, who's going to step up for Dwayne? We know about Terry, but he's going to need help. He needs a road dog. He needs a tag team partner. All right, he's Batman. Who's Robin? Is there even one on the roster? We don't know. Somebody's got to emerge. We think Steven Sims is that guy, but are we 100% certain about that? No, we're not. Who's going to be the alpha across? If Steven Sims is our slot winner, who's the guy opposite of Terry McLaurin on the outside? Is that guy Antonio Gandy Golden, the Gandy man? Is that guy going to be Dontrell Inman for a season? Is that guy going to be somebody else that we're not even thinking about? Hard to say right now, but we need guys to step up for Dwayne. All right, that was one of the criticisms of this roster. Not enough weapons. The Redskins didn't do enough for Dwayne in the offseason. They didn't surround him with enough targets. Look at what the Broncos did for Drew Lock, another second-year quarterback. The Redskins didn't do enough to help Dwayne Haskins out. I vehemently disagreed because I thought we added Antonio Gandy Golden, the Gandy man. And we added another Antonio and Antonio Gibson, who's also going to catch the football. I thought where we failed Dwayne was we didn't add an adequate option at tight end. Not for a lack of trying. You know, they went after the ex-Atlanta Falcons tight end, Austin Hooper. And this wasn't a deep tight end draft class. We've already discussed that. So I wasn't mad at them for not reaching for a tight end. At the end of the day, something has to give. We need guys to step up. Who are those guys going to be? I think that's a big storyline to watch during training camp is which targets, and we're not just talking wide receivers, we're also talking tight ends. Which targets are going to emerge for Dwayne Haskins in the 2020 season and possibly beyond? So that's number 5. As you get to number 4 on the list, it's injury watch. How can it not be injury watch? How can that not be a part of your 5 biggest storylines? When you talk about this team, for me, every year we say the same thing. And as my barber eloquently puts it, every year we have the same discussion about this team. Every year. Can we stay healthy, please? And so I'm not going to talk about us staying healthy this year. That's not what I'm talking about when I refer to injury watch. What I'm referring to is the guys coming off of injury. Can we rely on these players to produce for us in 2020? I'm talking about the Reuben Fosters of the world. I'm talking about Bryce Love. I'm talking about Darius Geis. I'm talking about Thaddeus Moss. And even to a much lesser degree, and I don't want to see him on the field, even an Alex Smith, who has been he's been as much about the conversation as any player on this roster. Alex Smith has dominated a lot of the early training camp discussions. How well he's looked, even though he hasn't been cleared for play yet. He hasn't been medically cleared by the Redskins medical staff, excuse me. He is a guy that is also on injury watch. But, you know, Reuben Foster is a guy that they say is doing all the right things, taking a lot of mental notes, showing leadership in the locker room. I love to hear it. But at the end of the day, you want to see what he's able to provide on the field if he can stay healthy. Bryce Love and Darius Geis have both been medically cleared, so those guys are on the field. It's good. I saw a still shot of Bryce Love catching the football, turning up the sidelines, and it was just good to see him out there on the field. It's been a long time since we've seen Bryce Love in a Washington football team uniform, and so just to see him out there running around, that was a sight for sore eyes. Darius Geis also medically cleared. Want him to stay healthy. That's always been our thing for him. Guys, uber talented. Think we got to steal in the second round. Prove it. Stay healthy and dominate. And Thaddeus Moss went undrafted. Why? Because he was injured. Because he got hurt. Well, because he elected to have surgery at the end of the college football season, right before the combine, and teams couldn't medically clear him. And the teams, first of all, not a great athlete. They knew that. He didn't get to dispel any of that at the combine. And so without having a real pro day, without having the ability to show that, hey, I'm a little bit faster or this, that, and the third, teams went off of his tape. He wasn't electric on tape, and he didn't get drafted. Well, we picked him up, and I'm happy that we did. But this is a guy that has to prove himself. So injury watch is my number 4. I think that's something that we have to pay close attention to. You get to number 3, and for me, it's the left tackle battle. In my mind, without left tackle being solidified, you can't have the kind of offensive explosion that we hope that this team is capable of. If you've got issues at left tackle, it's going to hamper you in so many ways. You're going to have to do a lot of creative things to counteract. Look, teams have found ways around faulty tackle play. It's not ideal, however. So it's a battle right now between 3 players, all of them having 2 first names. You know how I feel about that. Never trust a man. Never, ever trust a man with 2 first names. However, we're going to have to trust one of them. All right, we don't have a choice, okay? We don't have a choice. We got to trust one of these guys, and it's going to be between Sadiq Charles, 3rd-round pick out of LSU, Jaron Christian, out of Louisville, a 2nd-round pick of what now, 3-4 years ago? Feels like about 4 years ago. And Cornelius Lucas, who the Redskins signed as a free agent from the Chicago Bears, Detroit Lions, has played some quality snaps for both of those teams at either tackle position. He's a swing tackle. I think this is more of a 2-man race, however, Sadiq Charles and Jaron Christian. At the end of the day, if Jaron Christian beats him out, okay, let's see what you got. But to me, Sadiq Charles, the only way he doesn't win this job is because, and I heard Ron Rivera speak about this, that Sadiq Charles has to pick up the verbiage. You know, that's something that's going to hamper him because of the way camp has been set up and you know, not having OTAs in the offseason. But look, they still did a lot of Zoom calls and things like that, and he was able to work on the verbiage there. But being able to put that stuff into practice on the field, being able to play without having to think is what Sadiq Charles is going to have to do and prove to the staff in order to get that job. But I've said this all along. It's his battle to win. He doesn't have the job, so it's not his to lose, but it's his to win, meaning he's going to have the first crack at being the starting left tackle. Now, if he's not able to solidify that, that's when you see a guy like Jaron Christian have a chance to prove once and for all that he isn't a bust and that he belongs in this league. As a starting caliber tackle right now, to me, he's nothing more than a swing option as a backup. So we'll see what happens there. But that's my number 3 camp storyline. As we get to number 2, it's the impact of Jack Del Rio and Chase Young. We've talked all along about how this defense is supposed to be so much better, vastly improved. Why do we feel so strongly? I know some of you have been on the defense is going to be better trained for the last 3 years. Well, with Greg Manusky, similar to how I kind of feel about this organization, we can never really be as good as we really hope to be because Daniel Snyder owns the team. I think Daniel Snyder to me is the equivalent of a bottleneck. There's only so much you can do with him as owner. Now, I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope Ron Rivera is the guy that proves me to be wrong. However, I feel like Daniel Snyder is a bottleneck. You know, there's only so much you can cap out at in terms of success with Daniel Snyder owning your football team. Same could be said with all of the coordinators that we were trouncing around and prancing around this organization under Jay Gruden's tenure here, whether it was Joe Barry or Greg Manusky. Those guys were bottlenecks. They were hindrances. Those guys were deterrents. They weren't going to maximize talent. They were going to stunt its growth. All right. They weren't going to cultivate talent. They were going to stunt it. So to me, the first step was getting a credible defensive mind, a defensive coordinator that could maximize talent. enter in Jack Del Rio. So check. The next thing was getting a disruptive, game-changing force on your defense. And really, I could care what level it came on. I could care less, but I would prefer it to be as a defensive end / pass rusher. Check in Chase Young. So now you have all of the ingredients necessary to take what was a bottom half to, bottom third to, bottom of the league. You could say bottom half, but that's too much credit. Bottom half means you're somewhere from 17 to 32. Bottom fourth means you're somewhere from 24 to 32. No, we were somewhere from 29 to 32 every year defensively. In a lot of years, we were 32nd or 31st or 30th. So we were horrible defensively. Enter in Jack Del Rio and Chase Young, the two guys that we think are capable of changing the face of the game defensively for this team. Del Rio on the sidelines, Chase Young on the field. What's the impact of these guys? Can we start to feel that as camp progressives? I've heard nothing but good things about Chase Young and his work ethic and how he doesn't look like a rookie, but actions speak louder than words. We're going to see when he gets onto the field. And for all of the, nonsense of Jack Del Rio on socials and this, that, and the third, we know what this guy is capable of as a defensive coordinator. Looking forward to seeing what kind of impact those two come in and have, not immediately, but immediately on this defense that we think has all the talent up front to be a disruptive force. And finally, my number one biggest camp storyline is Ron's plan. Ron's plan. Ron Rivera has a very enviable task in front of him. It's one that not a lot of coaches wanted to take on, and especially after the offseason he's just endured taking the job. Not a lot of guys really envy Ron Rivera in the position he's in, but Ron Rivera has said this all along, and this is why I love this guy. I love him for this position and think that we got the best guy possible in the position of head coach of the Washington football team. He said all along, I chose this job. I had other opportunities. I could have waited out for the Cowboys job or the Giants job or the Browns job. I wanted this job. I wanted the challenge of restoring a once prideful and proud organization back to its roots and back to what it once was, its glory days. I want the task of doing that. I know that this is going to be a lot of work and it's going to require a culture change. I understand that this is not an overnight project. I understand that, and he talks about the military and how in the military, it takes 3 to 4 years to change a culture. And that's what he's looking to do if he gets the amount of time to do it here. He understands that this is not a quick fix. And the thing I love is that he has experience. So we don't have to go through Ron Rivera trying to figure it out as a first-time head coach in this league. He's been on a reclamation project before in Carolina when he was a first-time head coach back in 2011 in similar circumstances where there was a lockout and he didn't have access to the players. And there was a young quarterback on the roster, albeit a rookie quarterback, but second year rookie, all the same. Dwayne didn't really start much of last season. So it's a lot of the same situation. It's an organization that needs an overhaul and they need a leader and they need someone to take them in the direction that they want to go. And they've been starving for someone to lead them. We've got a bunch of foot soldiers, a bunch of guys that are dying to follow somebody, but they haven't had that guy. Enter in Ron Rivera. And so for me, Ron's plan is the biggest thing of this offseason and of this training camp. It's the biggest storyline because you can have all the players you want. If you don't have the right guy in place, it's hard to maximize the talent that you have. And it's hard to get guys to follow someone if they don't believe in him. And the thing that I keep hearing people echo about Ron Rivera is his sincerity, but also his straightforwardness. I've heard ex-players talk about the one thing that they covet the most in a coach, and that's the ability to know where they stand. A guy that's going to tell me where I am and what I have to do and where I stand. Nobody likes to be left in the dark, especially these athletes who are all alphas for the most part in these locker rooms. They want to know where they stand. They want to know, all right, look, tell me what to do. I'll go do it. They need a leader. Ron Rivera is the exact guy at the exact right time for this football team. And with that being said, Ron's plan is in full gear now. It's in full motion. And I just want to see it executed to the highest of his ability. And I think right now, more so than any time in this franchise's history, we need a leader. You know, we need someone to come in here and turn this thing around. This organization, and even under Ron's watch, even though he had nothing to do, this is remnants from the old regime. He still had to deal with dysfunction. He still had to deal with a name change. He had to deal with the sexual assault story out in the Washington Post. He still had to deal with a whole bunch of nonsense and tomfoolery. And he's done it in stride, and he hasn't missed a beat. He had to deal with Black Lives Matter and everything that is going on, COVID-19, and this guy is ready. And so now I want to see Ron's plan actually unfold, a culture be changed, and this team move in the right direction. And so to me, that's the biggest storyline in training camp for 2020. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on that. So make sure that you leave that in the comment section if you get a chance, either tonight or after this video is done. You come back and you drop me a comment so I can read your 5 biggest camp storylines for the 2020 Washington football team training camp.
LouieTeeNetwork.